Most people are not even aware that there is a consciousness shift happening on the planet right now. There's so many distractions. There's all this stuff happening, crazy stuff happening all over the world. And what happens is when people are in fear and anger, they're much easier to control. They're much less likely to ask deeper questions. They're in survival mode. They're literally worried about their safety and their health. And because of that, what do most people do then? They look to authority. They look to authority to feel safe. They look to authority to tell them what's happening. And when people are in that level of consciousness, they are way less powerful. Now, there's a new earth that is coming. Can you feel it? Eckhart Tolle talked about this. He wrote a whole book about it called The New Earth, which has to do with a level of consciousness that is emerging on the planet. And literally, if we do not evolve our level of consciousness, our planet will destroy itself. Let's cross-check this over to what Dolores Cannon talked about in 17 or 19 of her books. And it wasn't even her talking about it. Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist for like 40 years. And her books are transcripts from people in a deep level of hypnosis. And tens of thousands of people all over the world have been in this specific healing hypnosis state where their higher self comes through. It's like voice recorded. Many people don't even remember when they come out what they're saying or what they said. They're in like this state of consciousness where their higher self and their subconscious mind comes through to relay all this information. And there's many books written that are just transcribed sessions with people. And interestingly enough, thousands of people from all over the world who have done this kind of hypnosis and their higher self and subconscious mind came through, you want to know what it said? Many times in different ways. We came here to be a part of this shift. The shift in consciousness. We came here to be and to help the planet move into what is called New Earth. A new way of being, a new level of consciousness. And we came here to help that transition happen so that people didn't get left behind. Because in Dolores Cannon's material, what it talks about is this 3D to 5D Earth split. Now, this sounds very esoteric, sounds kind of woo-woo, and there are things we need to realize about this that I want to share because people might get kind of lost in the details of this. But a 3D to 5D Earth split. Let's first off talk about the different elements of 3D to 5D. It's very important to understand this because then you can see where your vibration is laying, because whatever your vibration is in, that is the reality you are experiencing. And what it says in the Dolores Cannon material is that there's these two levels of consciousnesses that will be on the planet for a period of time. But then eventually what will happen is these levels of consciousness will begin to shift. And with it, there will be an energy split that happens, an energetic energy split. I want to make that clear. This is something that also Bashar has talked about, who's been around for almost 40 years, channeling very similar material and energy. And what he talks about is how you want to be on the train track you want to be on, because as the years continue to progress, because things are evolving in consciousness, the track that you are on with the train track, it's like you're leaving a station. And what happens is eventually they're going to be splitting all these different tracks. And what happens is for a period of time, which is what we're in right now, you have the ability to look at the other train tracks to see what's happening. You can see. It's almost like there's a glass wall that you can look and observe. But what he says is similar to what Dolores Cannon says, is that as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to jump from train track to train track or to even see what's going on. It's literally as if your frequency shifts and then you just cannot perceive of the old vibration anymore, of the old earth anymore, if you're on the new earth. And vice versa, if you're trapped in the energies of what is called 3D, which is kind of being asleep in the illusion of duality, of separation. If you think of 3D and 5D Earth, think of it like 3D is that of separation, duality, good, bad, light, dark, fear, anger, being stuck in a form of victimization, being stuck in they're doing this to us, or they're doing this to me, stuck in the old patterns, angry, it's the government's fault, buying into the media. These are all very common things, the social conditioning of the third dimension level of consciousness. Now, what it talks about in that Dolores Cannon, Eckhart Tolle even, Bashar, and even also the Law of One, which are considered some of the most profound channelings of our time, talks about this same split, this same type of energy. And it's called the harvest. The harvest is where it's happening right now. There's a harvesting of energy within every one of our bodies of consciousness that we have the potential to sprout. And there will be this option to literally upgrade to a higher level of consciousness in our life. Now, 5D is more about understanding connection to each other, unity. What we put out is what you put out is what you get back. That we're all in this together. When you think of 5D, it's also like having the courage to do the shadow work, to take ownership and responsibility for what's happening, not just blaming everything else happening out there. What can I change within myself? Following your passion, your purpose, understanding money in a very different way. Living more at unity and at one with the earth. Now, some of these things I'm sharing with you right now, it may seem like a long shot. You're telling me we're going to do this all right now? But the thing is if we don't, we continue to crumble with the old level of consciousness. Now, what it says in Dolores Cannon's material is that back in the 1920s, 1930s, there was an energetic call that was put out through the universe that literally said the earth was like, I'm going to be destroyed. I know this sounds very esoteric, but this is also talked about in the Law of One, and it is also talked about in Dolores Cannon and her material, and even Bashar, and even Eckhart Tolle would probably agree with this too. The earth is a sentient being, and we are cells on it. Macrocosm, microcosm. I know this sounds esoteric for some people, but the earth has chakra points on it. In the Law of One, it's called the logos. There's these different connection to different planetary systems and spheres, and it's all microcosm, macrocosm. So what happens is on planet Earth, there was a call that was put out in the back in the 1920s, 1930s, when we were experimenting with nuclear bombs. And what happened is it was very clear that the timeline we were on is we were going to destroy ourselves if nothing happened. But then what happened is there was this call that Mother Earth put out, Mother Gaia, whatever name. I know it sounds really weird and esoteric to even say that for some people. But that call that was put out, there were people, beings all over the universe that felt this connection to Earth, that knew it was going to be very hard, that knew they were going to have to forget who they are to remember who they are. And that they came here to go through that process because they wanted to be here during the shift. They call it the shift. This was, once again, through thousands of people that have been in QHHT from Dolores Cannon's technique. So this isn't just like one person said this. Many people, just like you and me, that are in deep level hypnosis would say these things. Came here to be a part of the shift. Came here to be a part of the new earth. And one of the rules of our reality is we must forget who we are to remember who we are. And then we go through a process of redefining who we are and how we choose to show up in the world. Now, the values of the 3D, it's very much about unconsciousness. And that's why what we must do now on the planet is become